Welcome back to another An Easy Mind reaction. Um, that's I don't know if I can pronounce that name, and I don't want to butcher it. But the channel in which we're gonna be the video. Why do I stumble on my words? The video which we're reacting to, the channel in which that video comes from, is Eiselganger. I don't know how to pronounce that. It's that one right there. I feel like I'm in the way of it, so I'm gonna just scroll up a little bit. But the title is Why Patience is Power. Priceless benefits of being patient. But yeah, I think this would be a great video. I always say it's a great video at the end, but I feel like it always is a great video. There's no reason to lie. But 14-minute video, so let's not waste any time. Let me make sure it's on 1080. Maybe waste time a little bit, and let's get right into it. Okay.
Buddha and his disciples once embarked on a long journey. Exhausted from a long day of walking, they decided to stop and rest near a lake.
Yeah.
Buddha asked his youngest and most impatient disciple to walk to the lake and bring him some water. So he did. But when he arrived at the lake, he saw a group of oxen crossing it, which muddied the water. The disciple thought to himself, "I can't bring this dirty water to Buddha." He returned and told Buddha about the water. Buddha said nothing until a few moments later, asking his disciple again to bring him some water from the lake. As expected, the water was still dirty. Later on, Buddha asked his disciple the same question again. Angrily and cursing, he went to the lake, expecting that the water was still dirty and undrinkable. But, to his surprise, the water was crystal clear.
Patience.
The muddiness of the lake was only temporary. After a while, the mud settled, and the water became clear again. The monk couldn't force the water to clear up, and there wasn't anything he could do to speed up the process. In all likelihood, any intervention would have made it worse. Psychiatrist and philosopher Viktor Frankl once stated, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change
I
ourselves."
remember that.
End quote. In the monk's case, he couldn't do anything about the muddiness of the lake, or Buddha repeatedly asking to bring him some water. He wasn't able to change these circumstances, so the only thing the impatient monk could do was change his attitude towards these circumstances. As the muddy water would eventually clear up by itself, all he had to do was wait patiently for nature to play itself out, which was the lesson Buddha intended to teach. Patience would have saved the monk from the pain of anger and dissatisfaction. This video explores several benefits of patience and why patience is power.
That's a great intro. Great intro. Definitely got me hooked.
As the Buddha's story illustrated, the problem with impatience is the suffering it causes to the impatient person and potentially to his surroundings. An impatient person experiences dissatisfaction with the current circumstances. This dissatisfaction can be strong enough to cause an angry outburst. The phenomenon of road rage as a consequence of traffic jams is an example of this. Not only is impatience unpleasant, but it's also pointless. Impatience is the unwillingness to live life at the pace it actually happens. We wish for the universe to bend to our will. We want things now. We want things to change in an instant. But in reality, external circumstances are not up to us, no matter how much we wish that to be the case. Patience, the opposite virtue, is based on the acceptance of what is. As Oxford Languages defines it, the capacity to accept or tolerate delay, trouble, or suffering without getting angry or upset. End quote. When practiced in everyday life, patience has several benefits, including not only the absence of dissatisfaction, but also making better decisions and improving one's dealings with others. We'll now explore 5 benefits of patience. 1. The natural flow. Most of the time, rushing things doesn't really help in terms of achieving our goals. Moreover, trying to force the process may even be detrimental. A previous video about the Taoist concept of Wu Wei explored the art of effortless action, or non-doing. It told a story about a farmer who desperately tried to grow his crops, but as his interventions conflicted with a natural course. His efforts didn't help. In fact, they went against the flow of nature. The Taoists observed that using force backfires and leads to ruin.
Mm.
Nature has its own plan and moves at its own speed. It operates optimally without our interference. Philosopher Michel de Montaigne stated, and I quote, "The general order of things that takes care of fleas and moles also takes care of men, if they will have the same patience that fleas and moles have, to leave it to itself." End quote.
I think that's important to note because so often as humans we believe ourselves to be outside of nature, to be outside the natural way of things, and it's hard to combat that thinking since we do have the ability to think, and not only to just think, but to think about the ways in which we're thinking, and so we're able to prepare for the future or reflect upon the past, and so well if the water becomes muddy, and sometimes we lose sight of the natural way of things, and then we end up becoming impatient with how things are. But I think if we could, I think the video is going to get to it. I try to refrain from pausing because it's been such a great video so far. The explanation is going well, and I don't think I need to say too much. But I was gonna say I don't need to say too much, and here I am saying more. No, let me just get back to the video.
According to Taoist philosophy, we can either embark on the flow of nature and navigate through life more effortlessly, or swim against the flow, expending copious amounts of energy in exchange for low returns. But how do we float along with a natural course? One of the prerequisites is patience. Patience allows us to let nature do the work for us, as we're willing to align our expectations with nature's speed. An example of using patience to tap into the natural flow is creativity.
Mm.
By and large, our creative impulses come and go spontaneously, so we cannot will ourselves into being creative. Writer's block generally occurs after a period of forcing our creativity, and the more we try, the worse it gets. But more often than not, if we leave it alone and stop trying, our creativity returns spontaneously. Hence, Charles Bukowski's poem, "So You Want to Be a Writer," states, "If you have to wait for it to roar out of you, then wait patiently. If it never does roar out of you, do something else."
I think sorry for pausing again, but I think the reason why in which we're so impatient is because I'm living, I guess, how do I say, living kind of straight away from being this natural thing which happens to this almost necessity, almost as if it's a necessity to be alive. And I think we um, misunderstand survival because although like okay, so like I understand we all wish to survive. Well, I can't say all, Well, everyone who's alive as of right now wishes to remain alive. Wishes to survive. But I think we've become so big headed that we think our survival is a necessity for the universe, for the world. When really that I feel like that's a selfish way of thinking. Each individual, of course, wants to perpetuate humanity. Humans want to perpetuate their existence, but that's a want, and that's only viewed from the human perspective. But other than that, outside of us, everything is still continuing as it is, and everything uh, um, rises from the ashes, or falls into the I was gonna say the sand. Basically everything is created and then dies. Everything is birthed, I should say, because nothing is created. I feel everything is as it is, but everything is birthed and then dies. And so, uh, need I say more? I hope I'm making sense. If I'm not, like I said, do always leave a comment. But yeah, I just think that survival or living isn't really a necessity. But I think since we made it a necessity, since we think it to be a necessity, and then also behind that, to survive, we're all working. You know, we're all trying to um, procure funds. We're all trying to make money, and so that causes even that extends the separation from uh, um, from nature, from the natural way of life, and we become distant, and our viewpoint becomes skewed. I believe, at least that's how I view it. That's how I think of it. But yeah, let's get back to the video.
2. Wiser, more rational decisions. As opposed to doubt and overthinking, careful consideration before making an important decision often turns out well. The difference between doubt and overthinking and carefully considering our options is that the former is repetitive and generally doesn't lead to any substantial resolution. On the other hand, careful consideration means we weigh different options and explore possible outcomes, typically using reason and logic, but doing so requires clarity of mind. If emotions have taken us over, we tend not to make rational decisions, as we base our decision making on impulses evoked by, for example, anger or fear. If, for example, we decide to end a friendship amid a heated quarrel, there is a reasonable chance of regretting that decision. Applying patience before deciding benefits our lives, as it allows us to decide from a place of clarity and peace of mind. Specifically in this context, patience is an instrument of self-control for letting our emotions dissolve and not acting upon them. Ideas from folk wisdom, such as to sleep on it before making a decision or to count to 10 until acting, are practical, straightforward ways of applying patience to one's life. 3. Equanimity.
Okay,
Impatience.
before we go on to benefit number three, I just want to say because a question arose while that part of the video was playing out. It's like, so somebody tells you to be patient, you know, but the question I think comes about is like, how long is the individual supposed to be patient for? You know, how long are we supposed to wait for things to happen? Because it's like, you know, we all I'm not gonna say we all, but when talking about this, we refer back to the natural ways of life, as it said in benefit. I think it was benefit number one. It was the, you know, the natural flow, natural way of life. But we can't separate ourselves from our thought process. Well, I'm not gonna say we can't. I don't think anyone desires, other than maybe monks or people who go out their way to try to separate themselves from their desires. And you know, like I said, desire is the roots of all suffering and disappointment. You know, if you're not expecting of anything, you can't be disappointed. So you know, I get that, but for maybe that's just the answer right there. You know, you shouldn't make it any more complicated than it needs to be. And if you're going to have aspirations, if you're going to desire things, then you need to accept that sometimes you're going to be disappointed. Maybe that is the natural way of life. And you either pick or choose, or you're separating yourself from your desires, or you're going with your desires. And then when you pick one of the two, certain outcomes lie on the other side of it, and you just have to be accepting of it. So maybe that's all there is to it. You know, who knows? We can think about it more later. Get back to the video. I'm gonna run it back a little bit. So
And mental acting are practical, straightforward ways of applying patience to one's life. 3. Equanimity. Impatience can turn people mad. That's why we generally don't like waiting. But because of our impatience, we let external circumstances decide how we feel. The ancient Stoics considered the latter problematic. If external events determine our emotional state, they exercise power over us. The whims of fortune decide whether or not we get angry, frustrated, or anxious. A common source of frustration for people is waiting for a train, then finding out it's delayed. And thus, they fidget around on the platform, often visibly annoyed, as the train doesn't arrive as soon as expected. Not long after, another announcement says the train is delayed even longer. As a consequence, some of the commuters get mad and start cursing. But those that are patient simply take note of the delay and wait for the train with minimal suffering. As mentioned earlier, impatience results from dissatisfaction with current circumstances. Patience, however, allows us to accept these circumstances, to not let them affect our serenity. Why would we let ourselves be swayed by things we cannot control, like delayed
That's
trains,
true.
muddy water, or difficult people? Through patience, our equanimity won't be disturbed by such encounters. 4. Persevere.
I guess that previous question more so stemmed from the idea of being patient with others. Like, I guess in a relationship, maybe you're waiting for someone to change, or you're waiting for, yeah, waiting for them to change, to find better way of dealing things. Maybe they're going through something, and you're just there. You're trying to be supportive, but it's like, how long are you supposed to be supportive? At what point do you stop disregarding yourself and then move that disregarding onto them, and then start regarding yourself, start taking care of yourself. But I think that also goes back to the idea of having desires. Just accepting that's a choice you have to make, and sometimes it might be difficult because of personal relationships and how close you might be to someone else. But at the end of the day, you have to make a decision and live with it. It's an experience we all have to go through if you choose to by your desires, stick by your desires.
And success. Perseverance can lead to long term results, but to persevere, one needs patience.
No, that's true.
One needs to stop desiring quick results, which, unfortunately, people seem to pursue nowadays. It's prevalent for people to start something but never push through. For example, when they decide to lose weight or build muscle, they begin working towards their goal but quickly lose their motivation and quit. Generally, this loss of motivation comes from being too focused on the results rather than the process itself. When the desired outcome doesn't appear as quickly as expected, one gets dissatisfied with the circumstances and becomes impatient. And if results remain absent, many people tend to stop whatever they're doing, through which these results would eventually ensue. Writer and philosopher Albert Hubbard wrote, "How many a man has thrown up his hands at a time when a little more effort, a little more patience would have achieved success."
Mm.
End quote. If one works toward a goal while being patient regarding the results, the lack of results, at least for a reasonable period, will not be a demotivating factor. Again, patience grants us the ability to accept or tolerate delay. Another story about a farmer trying to grow a bamboo tree shows how patience led to the necessary persistence to achieve his goal. The seeds of this particular bamboo tree take 5 years to even start growing, meaning that the years before the farmer needed to water and care for them without seeing any results. During those years, it seemed like his work was in vain and the bamboo tree would never start growing. Nevertheless, the farmer remained patient, trusted the process, and thus proceeded with his daily efforts. After 5 years of consistently watering and taking care of the seeds, the bamboo tree suddenly shot up.
Mm.
The farmer's patience had paid off. We can compare the farmer's situation to many modern day life examples of how patience helps us achieve long term goals. For example, when investing in the stock market, it generally takes decades to see significant profits from compound interest. Also, on average, new businesses take about 3 to 4 years to become profitable. Success on YouTube may come quicker when lucky, but it generally takes years to occur if it.
Well, that's just a sign to pause and to talk about it. But I was trying to refrain from it. But I sent this video recently to the group chat with my sister and dad. Um, it was a TikTok video that inspired me. I had to go back and search for it because I had watched it a while ago, and we were discussing something that I guess provoked me to go find that video again. But a quote that came from that video, which also now is in my personal IG bio, but it's just I don't need to explain the story. The quote is just don't quit for one more day. And that simple sentence inspired me to continue at whatever it is I'm doing. And that allowed me to enjoy what I was doing that much more. Because before, you have this goal and you're working towards it, and goals are great to get you on moving about and doing something throughout your life, on a day to day basis. But I feel a lot of times, uh, I'm not the first one saying this. A lot of people speak on it, but we do we get distracted? We get distracted by the goal. Our goal kind of clogs up our ability to remain in the now. And like I said, goals are great to have, but when it becomes imbalanced, that perspective, I guess you could say, that vision in which you have on yourself, when it becomes imbalanced, where you're not able to have the goal but then remain in the now, um, it could prove to be detrimental, to not only maybe your career or relationships you have with people, or just relationship you have with yourself, your health or whatever. But like I said, that quote, it was extremely great. I might repost it on my TikTok account. I might just post it to my story. But it great. And what he was talking about, YouTube may come quicker when lucky, but it generally takes years to occur, if ever. And once you're able to accept that, um, one of my favorites, R&B artists, well, just artists in general, Giveon, he did a sit down with, I think his name's Zach or Zane. He's like a hip hop or music guy, which goes around interview artists. But Gavin was talking about one of his first releases. I think it was it Vision? No, it's hard. Vanish. I said Vision. Vanish. He released it on SoundCloud, and then there, I think he had this talk with his guys or his pals or whatever, and the question came about: would he be okay if his music never, saw the light of day? If other people never were able to view it and appreciate it as much as he did. And once you're able to accept that as a possibility, and answer yes, then I think you kind of mitigate the amount of times you might suffer along the way, or while undergoing your journey. I think that's helped me a lot, because I have 4 subscribers right now, and I talk to the camera as if there's a whole bunch of people watching. I have a crowd in front of me or whatnot. But for the most part, it's just me. I think my last video has no views on it, but it's I'm kind of how do I say, forgetting about the numbers. I don't want to just say for the time being, but I think it is going to remain that way, because even if I blow up and then I see the numbers uh, um, go back down, I don't think it's going to affect me, because from the point in which I started all this, I had in my head that it may never, you know, reach the audience in which I may aspire for it to reach. And that's okay for me. And so, there's really nothing much more to that, but you know, I guess that was a touching moment I could share with you guys. Here I go saying you guys once again, acting as if people are watching this. But yeah, let's get back to the video.
Happens. Patience allows us to endure these periods without compensation for our efforts. Undoubtedly, summoning such patience isn't easy. It's bitter, but its potential fruit is sweet. 5. Tolerance for others.
Oh, here we go. Maybe this answer.
We do not control the actions and will of other people, and thus those around us may do things we don't like and refuse to do what we wish them to do. Yet many people expect that others behave in ways they want, and when they don't, they experience dissatisfaction. Fights between couples often originate from one party doing or not doing something that conflicts with the other party's desire and expectation. We get impatient because we don't want people to behave as they do. We want them to act differently and think differently, despite us not having a say in this matter. The ancient Stoic emperor Marcus Aurelius recognized that we have no choice in regard to which people appear in our lives. We'll meet with ungrateful, deceitful, rude, ill-willed people, whether we like it or not. There's nothing we can do about it. However, we can change our attitude towards them. We can let these people disturb us, or we can accept.
I think there's two things I want to say on this. The second thoughts is most recent, so I'm gonna go with that. If I forget the first one, so be it. But what he was saying about let these people disturb us. A lot of people, well, I can't say a lot of people, but me personally, I don't think I'm affected. Like my attitude or feeling doesn't really change when I'm insulted, and that goes for the N word too. You know, if someone who is not my complexion, not my race, were to call me out and call me out my name and refer to me as an N word, or whatever the case may be, a B word. I have thoughts like these a lot of times. It's like if I ever do start reporting to an audience, and then there's people out there who might just try to get a get their moments or try to incite me in any way. I don't think I would be affected because I don't know what it is about it. Because I also my understanding, or like, is it an understanding or is it just a belief? Whatever it is, but my understanding of like words, they don't really have any meaning to them unless I have a meaningful relationship with the person who would be uh iterating those words to me. So like if my mother were to insult me, that might mean something to me. But if a stranger or somebody who I have no relationship with were to call me out my name and refer to me as this, that, and the third, it wouldn't have much of, I can't even say much. I don't think it would have any effect on me because I just, I don't know. Maybe there's more to it. I can dive into it later on. That's what I would start writing about in this time. I would be writing right now if I wasn't recording. But yeah, oh, see, and just like that, I forgot the first thoughts. Maybe if I go, I don't want to go back. What was the first thoughts? Dang, forgot the first thought. But that's the second thought. Let's get back to the video.
Their existence, and that encountering them from time to time is unavoidable, and there's no reason to be bothered by what we can't do anything about. By having patience with people, we not
Oh,
only neutral.
there we go. But like I said, uh, with my friends, the relationships I have with my friends, sometimes, without mistake, and what probably happens with a lot of you guys, friends, get on your nerves. But I think the way in which how am I phrasing this? What helps me to mitigate my annoyance by them is, I guess, one, understanding that they too are individuals with their desires, and so now it just becomes a battle, and picking and choosing what I want to be annoyed by, what I don't want to be annoyed by, like whether it's worth an argument, um, or dang, 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 dang. Here I go again. These thoughts just come and go. I think this is why I write. Because as soon as I get to speaking about it, it's like, oh, there it goes. If I wrote this down, I could go back to it, figure out where I was going with it. But now it's like it's up in the air and it's out there and I can't remember. Man, let me get back to the video. The video's about to end. Let's just finish it off. No more
Power
pausing.
to
No more pausing.
disturb our peace of mind. We also accept their flaws and thus their humanity. In
Yeah.
his book, The Hidden Power of Kindness, missionary Lawrence Lovazic stated, "The practice of patience toward one another, the overlooking of one another's defects, and the bearing of one another's burdens is the most elementary condition of all human and social activity in the family, in the professions, and in society."
Right.
End quote. Patience increases tolerance towards one another, allows us to listen before we speak, be more empathic and forgiving, and be less likely to respond and react in ways we later regret. It's a habit that strengthens our overall position toward the outside world and ourselves. Impatience implies intolerance, foolishness, weakness, and suffering. Patience means tolerance, wisdom, strength, and equanimity. So that's why patience is power.
Patience is power. Great video. Once again, as always. Um I paused the video enough throughout that, so I don't think there's any much more to say unless there is. And if there is, I will say it in the comments. Um Make sure to leave a like, make sure to hit the subscribe button, make sure to turn on post notifications. But if you're not going to do any of those, at the very least, please do leave a comment. I would like to have a conversation with you. Good day.